Chapter 24 of The People of the Abyss. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Peter Yearsley. The People of the Abyss by Jack London. Chapter 24. A Vision of the Night. All these were years ago little red-coloured pulpy infants, capable of being kneaded, baked into any social form you chose. Carlyle. Late last night I walked along Commercial Street from Spitalfields to Whitechapel, and still continuing south down Leman Street to the docks. And as I walked I smiled at the East End papers, which, filled with civic pride, boastfully proclaim that there is nothing the matter with the East End as a living place for men and women. It is rather hard to tell a tithe of what I saw. Much of it is untenable. But in a general way I may say that I saw a nightmare, a fearful slime that quickened the pavement with life, a mess of unmentionable obscenity that put into eclipse the nightly horror of Piccadilly and the Strand. It was a menagerie of garmented bipeds that looked something like humans and more like beasts, and to complete the picture brass-buttoned keepers kept order among them when they snarled too fiercely. I was glad the keepers were there, for I did not have on my seafaring clothes, and I was what is called a mark for the creatures of prey that prowled up and down. At times, between keepers, these males looked at me sharply, hungrily, gutter wolves that they were, and I was afraid of their hands, of their naked hands, as one may be afraid of the paws of a gorilla. They reminded me of gorillas. Their bodies were small, ill-shaped, and squat. There were no swelling muscles, no abundant thews and wide-spreading shoulders. They exhibited rather an elemental economy of nature, such as the cavemen must have exhibited. But there was strength in those meagre bodies, the ferocious primordial strength to clutch and gripe and tear and rend. When they spring upon their human prey, they are known even to bend their victim backward and double its body till the back is broken. They possess neither conscience nor sentiment, and they will kill for a half-sovereign, without fear or favour, if they are given but half a chance. They are a new species, a breed of city savages. The streets and houses, alleys and courts are their hunting grounds, as valley and mountain are to the natural savage. Street and building are valley and mountain to them. The slum is their jungle, and they live and prey in the jungle. The dear, soft people of the golden theatres and wonder mansions of the West End do not see these creatures, do not dream that they exist. But they are here, alive, very much alive, in their jungle. And woe the day when England is fighting in her last trench and her able-bodied men are on the firing line, for on that day they will crawl out of their dens and lairs, and the people of the West End will see them, as the dear soft aristocrats of feudal France saw them, and asked one another, "Whence came they? Are they men?" But they were not the only beasts that ranged the menagerie. They were only here and there, lurking in dark courts, and passing like grey shadows along the walls. But the women from whose rotten loins they spring were everywhere. They whined insolently, and in maudlin tones begged me for pennies, and worse. They held carouse in every boozing den, slatternly, unkempt, bleary-eyed and touzled, leering and gibbering, overspilling with foulness and corruption, and gone in debauch, sprawling across benches and bars, unspeakably repulsive, fearful to look upon. And there were others, strange, weird faces and forms and twisted monstrosities that shouldered me on every side, inconceivable types of sodden ugliness, the wrecks of society, the perambulating carcasses, the living deaths, women blasted by disease and drink till their shame brought not twopence in the open mart, and men in fantastic rags, wrenched by hardship and exposure out of all semblance of men, their faces in a perpetual writhe of pain, grinning idiotically, shambling like apes, dying with every step they took and each breath they drew. And there were young girls of 18 and 20, with trim bodies and faces yet untouched with twist and bloat, who had fetched the bottom of the abyss plump in one swift fall. And I remember a lad of 14 and one of 6 or 7, white-faced and sickly, homeless, the pair of them, who sat upon the pavement with their backs against a railing and watched it all. The unfit and the unneeded. Industry does not clamour for them. There are no jobs going begging through lack of men and women. The dockers crowd at the entrance gate, and curse and turn away when the foreman does not give them a call. The engineers who have work pay 6 shillings a week to their brother engineers who can find nothing to do. 514,000 textile workers oppose a resolution condemning the employment of children under 15. Women, and plenty to spare, are found to toil under the sweatshop masters for 10pence a day of 14 hours. Alfred Freeman crawls to muddy death because he loses his job. Ellen Hughes Hunt prefers Regent's Canal to Islington Workhouse. Frank Cavilla cuts the throats of his wife and children because he cannot find work enough to give them food and shelter. The unfit and the unneeded, the miserable and despised and forgotten, dying in the social shambles, the progeny of prostitution of men and women and children, of flesh and blood, and sparkle and spirit. In brief, the prostitution of labour. If this is the best that civilization can do for the human, then give us howling and naked savagery. Far better to be a people of the wilderness and desert, of the cave and squatting place, than to be a people of the machine and the abyss. End of chapter 24.